Hi, I'm Stephanie Poole, founder and CEO of Birth Prep Academy. I'm on a mission to help pregnant moms prepare for their first birth. I'm sharing revealing conversations about what it really takes to successfully transition into motherhood. So, join me here to discover things like what to expect in childbirth, how to prepare for your birth. We'll talk about breastfeeding and so much more. I am so grateful to share it all with you right here on Oh Baby, the podcast created for pregnant moms preparing for their first birth. Let's get started.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Oh Baby podcast. My name is Stephanie Poole. I'm the founder of Birth Prep Academy, where we help pregnant moms prepare for their first birth. And I am so excited to be with you today. It is our second episode, and so we're going strong. I am really ready to just dive right into our topic today. We're going to be talking about the number one purpose of your birth plan. So why do you need one? And we're going to get into that today. So I want to start out just by talking about what is a birth plan. Let's start there because I'm sure you've probably heard of them. And the idea or the concept is something that's been around for a while. You're probably familiar with them. Maybe someone you know had one or didn't. But most people are at least familiar with the idea or words birth plan. But I want to jump in to exactly what a birth plan is. Let's just start there. So a birth plan is a way for you to communicate your wishes to your healthcare team during your labor and after the birth of your baby. And I think we could stop there, but that wouldn't really help you to understand the importance of why you need one. Hopefully after this episode, you'll be able to make the connection of why I literally am willing to stand on the top of a mountain and preach about the need for having a birth plan, if at all possible, any plan, even if it's not necessarily one that I walk you through or that you set up with me, just having one, anyone, is better than nothing at all. So let's jump on in to talk about what's the purpose. It's a way for you to communicate your wishes to your healthcare team and your support team. So you might be thinking, if I'm there, if I'm present for the birth of my baby, why do I need a birth plan? When you dig a little deeper to understand the atmosphere of what it's like to be in labor, especially as a first-time mom, it's really intense. There's a lot going on. You have your healthcare team there, you have your support team, and regardless of what type of birth you choose, the birthing method, it's still a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of things happening physically with you in your body. There's a lot of things happening mentally. There's a lot of things just going on as you transition into motherhood during birth, during labor. And so it's really, I'm not going to say impossible, but it's almost impossible to think that while you're laboring, especially through your first birth, that you're able to be present enough to address every single question or concern regarding your birth. And to do so is so taxing that I would say nearly impossible to do it and still have a positive birth experience. So one thing you'll hear me say over and over again is that research has shown that women who have a birth plan are more likely to have a positive birth experience. And we can go into why that is maybe in another episode. But what I want to really stick to or focus on today is that when you have a birth plan in place, it speaks for you and it takes that pressure off where you can really focus on being present in the moment. You can focus on your techniques for laboring through contractions. You can focus on making the high level important decisions and not some of the tedious groundwork decisions, right? You can save your energy for what really matters versus really having to make constant choices throughout that process. And so that would be the reason why you would elect to have a birth plan, even though you're there, you're present, and you know what it is you want, it may not necessarily be easy to convey those things while there's so much going on and while you are focusing on pain management and really just delivering a healthy. So that would be one of the reasons why. I do want to talk about also the fact that having a baby and giving birth is truly one of the biggest life events that will ever happen to a woman. There's getting married and buying a house, maybe starting a business. Those are all big life events as well. But to me, nothing really tops that like having a baby. Literally being pregnant and nurturing your baby for 9 months and then giving birth to another human being is truly one of life's greatest moments. And we wouldn't necessarily just wake up tomorrow and say, because I like to think of it like this. You wouldn't wake up tomorrow and just decide, I'm going to get married and let's just have a big wedding today. Usually a wedding takes months and months of planning. And even in the short interim, if you're looking at, we got married in 30 days, it still was 30 days worth of planning, right? Very few people just wake up and say they want to be married. It happens, but it's not necessarily common. And that's often because getting married is a big deal. And you often want to share it with friends and family. And the same thing is true with having a baby. It is a big deal. And you often have a certain way that you would like for things to be done, and that takes planning. And just like we would treat any other big momentous occasion, you wouldn't just wake up today and say, I'm going to go buy a house. It's time. You got to get pre-approved, and then you got to look at houses and find which one really feels like home. And then you put in the offer and wait for it to get accepted. And then it starts a whole nother chain of now we have to do inspections and the closing table and then go to sign all of the documents. And then you get the keys to the home. So it's a big process. It's a big deal. One of the biggest moments in your life that you'll ever have. And you would never just wake up and do it all in one day. It's a process. It takes planning, especially to be executed well. And so I always use those examples when I talk about giving birth, because those are things that are big life events, but they still are not as complex and as intense as giving birth. And so surely if we plan for those things, making a plan for birth and delivery is well within reason.
Hey mama, got an empty hospital bag? No birth plan? Or how about this? You want to make a birth plan, but don't know where to start? No problem. Today's episode is brought to you by Bump to Bundle Blueprint, an online program designed to help you create a stress-free birth blueprint in 6 weeks or less. Listen, if you think you need help preparing for your baby's arrival, you absolutely do. Check out our wildly popular free masterclass titled The 3 Mistakes First-Time Moms Make When Preparing for Birth and What to Do Instead. This masterclass is chock full with all kinds of valuable information, like my 3-step framework for creating a stress-free birth plan, the #1 way to having a positive birth experience, and the secret to transitioning into motherhood like a boss. If you're pregnant and want to learn more about our proven method to help you prepare for your first birth, click the link in the show notes. See you there.
So with that being said, I kind of want to talk about a few of the reasons why you wouldn't want to birth without a birth plan. And I talked about this before. But one of the reasons you wouldn't want to necessarily birth without the plan, which makes it the reason why you really want to have one, and the purpose of why you would have a birth plan, is so that you don't have decision fatigue. So what we know is that from the time you have to labor, and by the way, I'm saying this, it really applies to any birth method that you choose to have, whether it's a birthing center or in a hospital. And with that in mind, you will have likely a healthcare team who you'll be working with, and they're going to have questions, right? Because you will likely be in a setting where you are not necessarily the only patient. And so in order to keep track of each patient and each birth, they will have questions. You will have a file. And it's important that They ask certain questions to know what your wishes are in terms of how you would like to labor, the type of pain management you would like to experience during your birth, what kind of birthing interventions would be open to, and things like that. Those are all things that they are going to want to know. And you don't want to make those decisions from a place of fatigue. You don't want to be tired and just worn out from the discomfort of labor and make big decisions like that. These are all things that you want to predetermine before you actually need to finalize that decision. Also, one of the reasons or the purpose of your plan is to really have an outline of how you can set things up so that your transition runs a lot smoother. I'll get into this in detail in another episode, but one of the reasons why I struggled with breastfeeding so much, especially in the beginning, was because I tried to learn everything in real time. And that's just not practical if you want to be successful. You have to have a plan. You have to have an understanding of how things are going to go before you actually need to do it. And having that birth plan is going to be key in helping you do that. You won't have that decision fatigue of trying to learn everything in real time. And then also, I think this kind of leads me to my next point of, I always say that you want birth to happen through you and not to you. And what I mean by that is you want to be able to experience the gift of giving birth by having the life of a baby literally your primary goal in terms of delivering and giving birth. You have this life that's passing through you. You are being used as a vessel to have this baby, to give this human life. And so with that being said, you want to really be able to tap into that and enjoy that moment and really understand the weight of what that responsibility really is, and not just have things happen to you that are outside of your control because there's no plan in place, there's no provision that is previously made. And it's very important that when you make a birth plan, it is done with the idea that it is all to communicate your wishes, your birth preferences to your healthcare team. And yeah, so I hope you really enjoyed this episode. I hope you can really take away the importance of what a birth plan is and the purpose of it, why you would want to actually have one versus not having one. And yeah, whatever your takeaway is, I want to know. Hop over on Instagram. Definitely leave me a comment or send me a DM letting me know what your takeaway is, as well as don't forget to subscribe to our podcast here. I will be doing bonus episodes coming up. You don't want to miss out, and you'll need to be subscribed to get notification of those when they drop. So go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. Until our next time together, our next episode, happy birthing. Bye, guys.